Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Can I get kartals? Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Nittai Gauranga Jayo Nittai Gauranga Nittai Gauranga Jayo Nittai Gauranga Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 8th Canto 8th Chapter Text number 20 Nunam tapo yasya manyu nijjayo Nunam tapo yasya na manyu nijjayo Gnanam kvachit tachana sangavarjitam Gnanam kvachit tachana sangavarjitam Kaschin maham tasya na kama nirjayaha Kaschin mahamastasya na kama nirjayaha Sa Ishvara kim parato vyapashrayaha Sa Ishvaraha kim parato vyapashrayaha Nunam tapo yasya namanyu nirjayo Nanam kvachit tachana sangavarjitam Kaschin maham tasya na kama nirjayaha Sa Ishvara kim parato vyapashrayaha Nam tapo yasya namanyu nirjayo Nanam kvachit tachana sangavarjitam Kaschin maham tasya na kama nirjayaha Sa Ishvara kim parato vyapashrayaha Nunam tapo yasya namanyu nirjayo Gnanam kochitasya madhyamanga saddham Kaschin maham tasya na kama nirjaya Sa Ishvara kim parato vyapashrayaha Word to word translation Nunam certainly Tapaha austerity Yasya of someone Na not Manyu anger Nirjayaha conquered. Gnanam, knowledge. Kvachit, in some saintly person. Tat, that. Cha, also. Na, not. Sangavarjitam, without the contamination of association. Kaschit, someone. Mahan, a very great exalted person. Tasya, his. Na, not. Kama, material desires. Nirjayaha, conquered. Saha, such a person. Ishvaraha, controller. Kim, how can he be? Parataha, of others. Vibhashrayaha, under the control. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The goddess of fortune, examining the assembly, thought in this way. Someone who has undergone great austerity has not yet conquered anger. Someone possesses knowledge, but he has not conquered material desires. Someone is a very great personality, but he cannot conquer lusty desires. Even a great personality depends on something else. How then can he be the supreme controller? Purport. Here is an attempt to find the supreme controller or Ishvara. Everyone may be accepted as an Ishvara or controller, but still such controllers are controlled by others. For example, one may have undergone severe austerities, but still be under the control of anger. By a scrutinizing analysis, we find that everyone is controlled by something else. No one, therefore, can be the true controller, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is supported by the Shastras. Ishvara Paramah Krishna. The Supreme Controller is Krishna. Krishna is never controlled by anyone, for he is the controller of everyone. Sarva Karana Karanam. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenum Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The goddess of fortune, examining the assembly, thought in this way. Someone who has undergone great austerity has not yet conquered anger. Someone possesses knowledge, but he has not conquered material desires. Someone is a very great personality, but he cannot conquer lusty desires. Even a great personality depends on something else. How then can he be the supreme controller? So we see here, goddess of fortune Lakshmi. She has been produced from the churning of the ocean. And when she is honored and worshipped by everybody, different, the Shastras talk about different personalities honoring her in different ways. I'll just quickly read a few things. Then there appeared the goddess of fortune, Rama, who is absolutely dedicated to being enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She appeared like electricity, surpassing the lightning that might illuminate a marble mountain. Because of her exquisite beauty, her bodily features, her youth, her complexion and her glories, everyone, including the demigods, the demons and the human beings, desired her. They were attracted because she is the source of all opulences. The king of heaven, Indra, brought a suitable sitting place for the goddess of fortune. All the rivers of sacred water, such as the Ganges and Yamuna, personified themselves, and each of them brought pure water in golden water pots for Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. The land became a person and collected all the drugs and herbs needed for installing the deity. The cows delivered 5 products, namely milk, yogurt, ghee, urine, and cow dung. And spring personified, collected everything produced in spring during the months of Chaitra and Vaishakha, spring season, April and May. The great sages performed the bathing ceremony of the goddess of fortune as directed in the authorized scriptures. The Gandharvas chanted all auspicious Vedic mantras, and the professional women dancers very nicely danced and sang authorized songs prescribed in the Vedas. It actually goes on and on. How after the bathing ceremony, the ocean produced, which is the source of all valuable jewels, supplied the upper and lower portions of a yellow silken garment. The predominating deity of the water, Varuna, presented flower garlands surrounded by 6-legged bumblebees drunken with honey. Vishwakarma, one of the Prajapatis, supplied varieties of decorated ornaments. The goddess of learning, Saraswati, supplied a necklace. Lord Brahma supplied a lotus flower, and the inhabitants of Nagaloka supplied earrings. Thereafter, right? Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, having been properly celebrated with an auspicious ritualistic ceremony, began moving about, holding in her hand a garland of lotus flowers, which were surrounded by humming bumblebees. Smiling with shyness, her cheeks decorated by her earrings, she looked extremely beautiful. Right? So in this background, Mother Lakshmi is actually looking at all the living entities assembled there, who are all very exalted personalities. And she is trying to find who should she marry or who should she serve. And she is identifying that there are challenges with each of the persons involved here. Right? And so let's see here in this verse, very beautifully, some very important lessons are being taught about life in this verse. The goddess of fortune, examining the assembly, thought in this way: someone who has undergone great austerity has not yet conquered anger. Who are some great personalities who will fall into this category? Ravana. Okay, very interesting option. So, Ravana, yes, because he did perform great austerities, but he had not yet conquered anger. Yeah, anger, lust, a lot of things he had not conquered. think Durvasa Muni is a very, very classical example. Right? Durvasa Muni, such a powerful sage. And when Ambarish Maharaj, committed, even, let's say, purposefully he had done it also. Such a simple transgression. And he just drank some water while he was taking bath in the river. For that, he invokes a big demon to kill him, knowing well that Ambarish Maharaj is such a great devotee. Right? That unfortunately represents significant lack of judgment on his part at that point. And so, saying that, even somebody else gave, what are the other example? Vishwamitra, I said. Can somebody say why Vishwamitra in this context? Who said Vishwamitra? Huh? Okay, Shakuntala. Something else? Yeah, and also anger, right? He was Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He was so upset with not getting the cow, Surabhi, that he started a big attack on Vasishta. Right? And he got so angry that he deployed his entire army against him. A whole army against one small rishi. But he was humbled by the defeat. By Surabhi, a cow defeating him. So we see many examples of this. So one should be very careful about this. What is the lesson for us to learn from this? See, as you become more and more fixed up in Krishna consciousness, it becomes easier and easier to follow some austerities. Right? If you go tell somebody, on a Saturday morning, we get up at 4:30, or some of you to come here in the morning with all your children, you may have to get up at like 3:30, 3:45, whatever, right? Some people even earlier. And it's not that, it's a big austerity, right? Especially after some time, it becomes easy and become natural. And, we all chant 16 rounds, which is a very powerful process. Even materially also, it produces a lot of punya, which is a byproduct. And, we practice fasting. Some of you do Nirjala and Ekadashi, different other vratas you practice. So all of this practice of austerities can get us pride. And when we become proud, and in some situations when there is disagreement on small simple things, we can get angry. And anger, we all know, is such a devastating emotion. In an instant, it can destroy years and years of hard work and tapasya. So that's why, anger is definitely one emotion which, for most of us, very, very, very rarely we should even try to employ it. You just assume that anger means it's a failure. You should assume that under all circumstances. Has anybody here successfully used anger in any situation? Huh? You lifted your hand? No? You are unsuccessful? Even if with small children also it doesn't work. Right? Have you tried? Hey, stop this, I'm telling you this. They'll say, what is this? You're a parent, you can't even control your anger, you're telling me. Right? That's what will be going on in the child's mind. Moment you employ anger, your power, your completely gets depleted. It's very foolish people who think that, I can be like this. Even horrible dictators in the world, right? They'll keep controlling everybody through all kinds of, Have you seen? See, they're always afraid of their life. They don't know who is going to depose them. There's so many checks and balances they will keep. One slight opportunity somebody gets, they'll finish them off. Right? So, as devotees especially, we should be very careful. Next one. Someone possesses knowledge, but he has not conquered material desires. Who are examples? Huh? Actually, Ravan is a better example for this one. Right? He had lot of knowledge. Oh, he knew the Vedas inside out and he was practicing. Hiranyakashipu is another example. Right? The austerities that he was practicing, he has to know the Vedas significantly well to be able to practice, and then saying all the knowledge he had, but he had not controlled his material desires. So Dronacharya, he had a son, he had a desire for his son to I don't know the full context, but I can imagine, yes. Dronacharya could be an example. So, in this one, see, we should understand something. When we are not able to control our material desires, right? There's a famous saying in the Bhagavatam itself, there's a verse. For a person who has not controlled his greed, even the position of Brahma is not sufficient. There is no limit. Right? In our own small way, we can analyze this. Right? Many of us, might have been born from modest, backgrounds. Right? We might have come from a village. We come from lesser background, whatever, right? And over years, okay, you get so much wealth, so much opulence, so much position, this, that. We're still looking for something else, isn't it? Anybody here is, I'm fully satisfied, I don't want anything else. Especially if you go back and look where you started. Very easily we forget that. We'll always talk about, somebody else who is better than us or this thing, but we'll not forget. How many of us came from a village where still there are people in a village, very modest this thing, and we have come 100x from where they were, right? Some of you can relate with that, but we are not satisfied, right? So, one has to, for a devotee, how do you deal with this material desires? What is the apt way for a devotee to deal with it? Any ideas? Huh? Dovetail in the Lord's service as much as possible. Yeah. And what else? Materially you want something. How do you deal with it? Huh? But what limit? Everybody will say, no, this I am asking for only this much. Right? Yes. Delayed gratification. Huh? After some time, we'll forget it. The primary thing is we only take prasadam. We only take prasadam. At least start that part and say, like, you want material desires. Okay, even eating is also material desire. No, I only eat prasadam. And that principle can be applied in all aspects of life. Right? That itself brings a little bit of sobriety. And like Mataji was saying, our Vaishnava acharyas have given us some guidelines on this. Right? When it comes to material opulence and all that, whose example will you take? Yeah, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Right? Sanatana Goswami, so opulent. In today's nomenclature, he would almost be a billionaire. That is the level of opulence they were enjoying. Right? And what did he do? He said 50% for the service of devotees and the Vaishnavas, 25% for his this thing, for his family and relatives, and 25% for emergencies. Right? I know it's a little, again, that's a very extreme example, which many of us Prabhupada actually urged us to follow that. But each of us are in different complicated situations. And we should make ourselves, especially as Gruhasthas, because Gruhasthas are the only ones in the whole Varnashrama system who produce wealth. One has to make a very concentrated effort as a Gruhastha to set aside certain portion of their earnings for the service of the Lord and the spiritual master's mission. And that becomes a forcing mechanism. Right? There should be some austerity associated with that. It shouldn't be like, oh, easily. Then it becomes an automatic thing because there is no limit to needs. You can try anything you want. There is no limit in any aspect of life. And the same thing, remember for a second where we all came from, maybe. Some of us might have had experience. Some of you might have been in very opulent initial stages. We can live with very simple things. We can live with very complicated things. The simpler we keep, the more easy it is. Then, someone is a very great personality, but he cannot conquer lusty desires. Who are examples for this? Saubhari Muni. Yeah. Saubhari Muni's fall down is more concerned with his offense, right, to Garudadev. But at the same time, yes, right, he couldn't control just by seeing, two fishes. He broke his tapasya. Who else? Yeah, obviously. Indra is very famous. Which examples of Indra? There are multiple Indra situations. Ahalya's example, right? I mean, think about it. He is such a great personality. He has access to so much of, in this particular area, all these apsaras are there, he's living in the heavenly planets. Still is not satisfied with, because lust is like that. There is no limit. And material nature is so adept at producing unlimited varieties. One only has to introspect inside your heart. You will see. Just because you're, that's why Madhupana Prabhu keeps saying, if you're marrying because you're lusty, you're marrying for the wrong reason. That is not going to solve your lust problem. Right? There is no, that Just because you're married, you might be married to the most beautiful woman in the world, but you'll still be hankering after something else. That is the nature. Same applies to um, women also, right? When you're in a female body, the way lust, how does lust manifest in a female body? Yeah, desire to attract other, the other opposite sex, and we see that so much nowadays. Right? People are so obsessed about how they look, and they will, the whole culture of selfie and all this has started. The extreme manifestation of that, right? And there, everybody is hankering for, likes, this thing, that thing, and finding different reasons and excuses to, publicize their, beauty and all that. So this is the nature. We see even in modern times, right? The President of America, right? He couldn't control his lust and had to go through so much harrowing, these things. Many presidents of America. There is, right? One person almost got impeached for that. So you just can imagine, there was a World Bank chief saying, you can, this list of great personalities falling for lusty desires is like a dime a dozen. It's almost like when power comes, they will fall victim to this very easily. Saying, what is this? You are a powerful person, you can't even control your lust. Mother Lakshmi is saying, what is this? This is not suitable for me. Very smart thinking there. Even a great personality depends on something else. Right? There are, that's why Asamordhva, there is nobody, only Asamordhva is only Krishna. There is nobody equal or nobody greater. I'll read the the translation of next verse. Text 21. Someone may possess full knowledge of religion, but still not be kind to all living entities. In someone, whether human or demigod, there may be renunciation, but that is not the cause of liberation. Someone may possess great power and yet be unable to check the power of eternal time. Someone else may have renounced attachment to the material world, yet he cannot compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, no one is completely freed from the influence of the material modes of nature. Someone may possess full knowledge of religion, but is not kind to all living entities. We see that, especially in the last 100 years. In the name of religion, people say, oh, we are religious people and we practice this religion, that religion, they'll say. And we have created an insane amount of suffering in this world for animals, just for the sake of the tongue. Again, how do you apply this in our own lives? You may be full knowledge of religion, but still not be kind to all living entities. Especially when somebody is in power of different kinds. All of us possess power of different kinds, at different levels. We have to be kind. We have to understand that in this material world, Kala is so powerful. We are, they say that borrowed. This is borrowed wealth, borrowed power. Right? So, when we are conscious of that, then we are more gentle and kind to everybody. Especially those who don't have power, those who don't have, the weak and the helpless, right? Either it's the very young or the very old. One has to exhibit practically and show how you're kind, how you're respectful, how you are creating a very conducive environment for those living entities. Right? We always keep talking about how a society is known. The quality of a society is known by how that society takes care of the really weak and the helpless. So, in someone, whether human or demigod, there may be renunciation, but that is not the cause of liberation. Just renunciation might actually get you entangled in pride again. That, oh, I'm renunciant, I'm this. We always talk about yukta vairagya. Renunciation is basically using what is in our control for the service of the Lord. That is the true renunciation. Someone may possess great power and yet be unable to check the power of eternal time. Who are some examples? Dhritarashtra. In what way? Then he has to give. But there are recent past who are some really famous people. Alexander the Great. 32 years he died. Right? So much, his entire life was just spent in going from one battle to one battle to one battle. And such a vast empire, starting from Greece all the way to, they came all the way to India. All of Egypt and this and Middle East and Turkey, all of that area, entire area, Persia. Persian Empire was the biggest empire, never conquered everything. Then one small fever killed him. Right? So, you might be very powerful, but Kala is more powerful than you. One has to understand this. Someone else may have renounced attachment to the material world, but he cannot compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, no one is completely freed from the influence of the material modes of nature. I'll just read one more. There's one more verse and then there's conclusion. Someone may have longevity, but not have auspiciousness or good behavior. Someone may have both auspiciousness and good behavior, but the duration of his life is not fixed. Although such demigods as Lord Shiva have eternal life, they have inauspicious habits like living in crematoriums. And even if others are well qualified in all respects, they are not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami continued. In this way, after full deliberation, the goddess of fortune accepted Mukunda as her husband, because although he is independent and not in want of her, he possesses all transcendental qualities and mystic powers and is therefore the most desirable. This is how, Mother Lakshmi chose the Supreme Personality of Godhead as our only solace and master. So, as I said, there are some very important lessons to be learnt. Someone may have longevity, but not have auspiciousness or good behavior. What is the use of living long life if one doesn't have, proper good behavior? Right? Your whole life, people will be cursing you and waiting. When will this person die? Right? Is that a nice way to live? So, one has to understand why we worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada is explaining, saying Krishna is the most attractive, Aishwarasya Samagrasya, right? He is full of all the 6 opulences, in full. He exhibits them. And he exhibits them in such a gentle way, such a wonderful way. Always, looking to serve his devotees, always, looking to find opportunities so that he can reciprocate the loving dealings with his devotees. So that's why Lakshmi, Mother Lakshmi, was also attracted to him. We'll stop here. Anybody has any quick questions? Comment? How to control anger? Very, very apt question. Very difficult to practice. Some of the things the Shastras talk about, Prabhupada, when he was advising many devotees, he would talk about not eating too much spicy food. Practical matters. It causes obviously Rajoguna, which increases both anger and lust. So, a practical way. Other practical things, many of you would have heard about this, They'll say, count to 10. Whatever you want to do when you get angry, just count to 10. If you actually are able to count to 10, you will succeed actually. So you should continue at least, instead of just counting 1, 2, 3, I'll say, this Hare Krishna mantra you say 10 times. Or just say Krishna, 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 you say 10 times. Because usually what happens, they say, right, don't react, respond. Usually anger comes, immediately we want to so much, hands are shivering, there's heat in the head. We want to immediately react. And you can almost you can take it in writing. Whatever you do, when you're emotional, when you're feeling that heat and when you're feeling anxious, it'll 100% be wrong. There's not even once anybody has done. Unless you are a pure devotee exhibiting anger for a different reason. That's why I said, for our levels, forget it. Don't try. You'll only fail. Any other tips anybody wants to give? Huh? Contemplation. Yeah. That's a good point. Contemplation, right? You might fail, but afterwards repent. And contemplate, hey, what did I do? How can I do differently? Because Paramatma is there in your heart. If you truly have a desire, the holy name, Paramatma, spiritual master will help. Because ours is a personal religion. We should ask, we should beg the Lord, oh Krishna, please help me. I'm unable to do this. If you're able to chant the Hare Krishna mantra when you get anger, and just listen, because you're touching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, automatically, that Sattva Guna will touch your heart. As a general principle, in our entire life, if there is anything we can do, is to put ourselves in Sattva Guna in all situations. Try our best. Sorry, somebody was saying something? Taking responsibility of the situation. Can you say more? Yeah. And if you also think that, okay, you are getting angry because, some child does something, somebody does something, husband does something, wife does something. Then you also think, if you really truly want to solve the problem, what will help? Will it really help? Yeah. Hate the disease, not the patient. So think about it, what can truly solve, what can really help. It usually is, as I said, as soon as you deploy anger, remember this, if you think that you're in a position of control, you'll be compromised. If you know that it's going to be compromised, then you will start being a little bit more careful about it. Are they ready for? I'm getting signal from the light god also, but still the altar is not ready. Okay. Yeah, so one has to be very careful about these emotions and these things, because invariably they pull us down into lower modes, and only bad things happen in lower modes. Nothing good comes out. Yeah. When many of our anger situations are not, like when you read something you get angry or some message comes and all that. Just wait 24 hours. Don't respond. Like never write emails, messages and all when you are upset. Just say, tomorrow I will do. Tomorrow magically the problem will get solved. That much little caution we apply, you will see like lot of life's problems will become very simple. Okay. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.